welcome to Let's Talk Diz, a show that gives you everything you need to know to help make your Disney vacation as magical as can be in just about 20 minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Coviello. With me each week is Disney Master Sandy from Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services. Sandy, how you doing this week?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. The voice is back. We're excited to hear the normal
back,
voice.
So thankfully.
So the last time that we spoke, we were just beginning to hear about your trip, Adventures by Disney in the Galapagos. We had gotten all the way through day one, believe it or not. And so we're going to pick up with part 2 of your Galapagos adventure, starting with day 2.
Well, and let me tell you, day 2, jam-packed. I remember thinking as I went to bed on day 2, how was this just one day?
Sounds like a Disney experience, even if it's in a different part of the world. That's how I feel most days.
You know, it was a biggie, similar to when I talked about the Amazon. We had lots of transportation. So we were up early. We were what we call luggage pull. Put your luggage outside your door so that they can grab it for you. Tinkerbell comes along. Luggage pull was, I believe, 6 a.m. with breakfast to follow and on the motor coach by 7. That quick 3-minute ride over to the airport. Check our luggage in, and when you go within Ecuador, they actually have you lift all of your luggage onto a belt. Even the bags you're checking have to be scanned through a security screener before you can go to the counter and check them in. So we scanned our luggage, we checked our bags, we kind of hung out, waited for our gate assignment, got on our plane. We were very fortunate, often because, again, it is an intercountry plane.
Right.
It's usually something that has a very small gas tank, and I am told that about 90% of the time, they have to stop along the way for more fuel. Thankfully, we were on a bigger plane, apparently, and we didn't have to make that extra fuel stop. But we took the bus to the plane. Once we landed, we claimed our luggage. They took it for us. We got on a bus. That's where we saw the very first of our bits of nature. As the bus was going down the road, there were several iguanas that were bigger than like 5-year-old children along the way.
That's awesome and terrifying at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the bus dropped us at what they call the Panga boat station, because none of these bigger ships in the Galapagos ever dock. So we had to get on a boat along with all of our luggage to get over to our boat. So it was a boat to a boat. Hopped on our boat,
fun.
of course, got our safety briefing aboard the Galapagos Legend, had lunch, and we were headed out on our first Zodiac to take a hike with a snorkel option as well. Our first peek at the Bluefoot Boobies, the frigates. It really immediately began, and there was nowhere you could go that you didn't see absolutely adorable sea lions.
Oh, that's awesome.
Headed back to the ship, had a big welcome reception, big dinner, and then they do a nightly briefing every night so that you are prepared for the next day. Sometimes you need to sign up for things. Sometimes you just need to know, is this going to be a wet landing? Because then I can't wear jeans and I can't wear sneakers because I need to be able to jump in the water and really kind of listen to get your bearings to get through things. And I will say we all went to bed at what felt like 3 a.m., but was about 8:30 at night, because it was a long day with lots of travel.
It's wild how that happens, right? You're just so wiped out that it feels like it's 4 hours later than it is. So that was day 2.
Well, when you think about it, again, we took a bus to a plane, to a bus, to a boat. We got off that boat onto another boat. We took that boat to a beach. Then we took the boat back to our main boat. Like, we had 7 different transportation options throughout the day.
Yeah, you're just missing John Candy. That's all you're missing. That's all you're missing.
Yes, I kept thinking planes, trains, automobiles, but there was no train in sight.
All right, so that's day 2. So then we're on to day 3.
We head to Santiago Island, We head off for a small hike and a snorkel. And again, everything is done with these naturalists that are so incredibly knowledgeable. Like you could play stump them with trivia and lose time and time again. And not only were they knowledgeable, they were passionate about what they do, they were kind, they wanted you to love their country as well.
Very cool.
So, back on the Zodiacs, back to the ship, lunch on board. We moved a little bit and then we got back on the Zodiacs and headed out for a walk on some lava beds and another opportunity to snorkel. There was a lot of snorkeling opportunities here. We were there during a very warm time of year, as I mentioned, so we didn't need wetsuits, but they do provide wetsuits. You also, that first day, will get fitted for your flippers and your mask and everything. And then you have a bag, there's a storage room for them. You don't have to take them back to your cabin, but you have a numbered bag that you grab all week long. It is yours so that you know you've got the sizes you need and everything perfect. With all the snorkeling, I keep saying snorkeling, but they go into more detail. What are you going to see in the snorkeling? What is the level of swimmer that you need to be for this snorkeling? Because some of them anybody could do, you could touch the bottom. Some of them you jumped off a boat and you couldn't touch the bottom. Others you jumped off a boat and there was a pretty steep current, so you needed to be a good swimmer. And they always talked about the level required to snorkel each time.
Yes, that's important to know. I mean, because that's the last thing you want to be stuck in the middle of and have no clue if you can actually hack it, right? I mean, that's a big deal.
Most definitely.
Okay. So what else?
And all of this on the boat, off the boat, snorkel, lava bed hike. You were tired at the end of the day.
I bet.
And again, every day we wrapped up with that talk to talk about what is tomorrow? What do we need to know? And again, this is your trip. So, unlike when I talk about land adventures and I say, they're all moving from one city to the other, you have to go. You don't have to get off this boat if you don't want to. And we had some people that honestly chose not to very frequently. If you thought that the level of snorkel was too high for you, or you just didn't want to jump from one boat to another again, that was always an option. And what I think I'll say, hopefully without a lot of judgment from our listeners, some people are bigger on nature than others. I loved the sea lions, but I didn't need to see the same bird every day 4 different times. So sometimes I just sat up on deck, looked out to the ocean, to the beach. Sometimes you could see the sea lions on the rock. Sometimes I went in the hot tub. One day I got a massage. There's opportunity to hang back as a solo person, as a couple, as a family, and really enjoy. I often found families in one of the lounges playing cards one day and Scrabble another day. It is your vacation, so it should be what you want it to be.
Well, that versatility is huge. I mean, that's part of what you're trying to get out of an experience like that. So that's nice to hear.
Most definitely.
All right. So what next?
So day 4, San Cristobal Island. Again, we started with breakfast and then we hopped onto our boats. We headed out to see the coastline. We did a little hike. And the big thing there was you got to see all 3 different species of the boobies. If you didn't want to do the hike and you didn't want to be kayaking, they did have glass bottom kayaks that you could take, which was very cool.
Yeah, sounds cool.
There is a limited number of those, so you did have to sign up. And if you did the glass bottom kayak on day 4, then you couldn't have it on day 5 till everybody who wanted to kayak did it. Unlike other adventures where I've said to you, you should kayak even though I'm not a kayaker, I have kayaked every time it's been offered to me in the past, because when you do something like a river cruise, Disney sets the kayak so that you're going with the tide. If you really never put your paddle in the water, you'll still make it. That is not the case here. Again, this is an active athletic thing. If you're kayaking, you're kayaking. You better be able to row,
Okay.
or you're going to have a real problem.
All right. Good to know.
Um, Again, get back on your Zodiac, head to the ship, have lunch. Because our ship was full, we did have to order dinner at lunch every day. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who did this at a different time, and their ship was only half full. And so they didn't make them order dinner each night at lunchtime. So, again, that kitchen is tight when the ship is full. So, your experience may not always be 100% the way that I describe it, because there is some variable based on how full your ship is.
Got it. Okay. So
Um,
just some thinking ahead, essentially, as far as your meals go.
Correct.
Okay. What happened next?
And I will say, maybe it's me. You're a beach person, Jeff. For those that don't know, he lives by the beach.
I do.
I find like after a day on the water, I, I'm done. Like I could even go to bed without dinner most of those nights. Like
Yeah, it
I'm
can
just
be.
wiped.
Yeah, well, especially just being out in the sun all day, like
Yep.
it wipes you out. I get that.
So afternoon 4, we had the opportunity to go to another beach. Again, lots of beautiful beaches, many of the same kind of wildlife that you would see on your way there if you opted to do any of the snorkels off of the beach versus in the middle of the ocean. Very similar. The difference as we moved around the Galapagos was the type of sand on the beaches. They're not all the same. We had lava sand, we had white sand. So that's one of those unique things. But again, we were only on day 4, and some people were like, yeah, I'm not going back out this afternoon.
Got it. Okay.
Um, we did some stargazing that night. So we went up on deck, looked at all the different constellations, learned a little bit about them. I will say, as somebody, I don't consider myself a city girl, but definitely, the sky is so much clearer there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just
Yeah, just a lot less sky pollution. I mean, that's just
a
the way
lot
that's
less
the way it goes.
pollution, very cool to look at. Um, got some sleep, and that brought us to day 5, still on San Cristobal Island. Now, again, remember my boat didn't dock. So when I talk about being on San Cristobal, we're about 20 minutes out every time we go. My particular Galapagos guide for my Zodiac lived on San Cristobal, so she did share some things about her hometown with us. San Cristobal is really the most active of the islands. Many of the islands we went to, I wasn't sure there were other signs of life there. We went to the beach. It's not a Jersey Shore. There's no lifeguard stand. There's no bathrooms. There's no tourist things. There's a beach,
Okay.
and there's no other sign of life.
Right.
In San Cristobal, it's a little city. So we did do a little bit of shopping. We actually took a bus, walked a couple of blocks, got on some motor coaches that were waiting for us to head out to the Turtle Reserve. And I have to say, it was very, very cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
before you even say anything, it sounds cool.
Galapagos turtles, I will say they talk about that these turtles are found nowhere else in the world. But I will say, again, this is April 2025 when we're recording. I was there in March 2025. Apparently, there is a Galapagos turtle alive and well in the Philadelphia Museum who just had a baby 2 weeks ago. So, I got back from this place where they're like, you'll never see these anywhere else. And then it was all over my news feed that the turtle was born. Um, but that turtle is in captivity. And although this breeding center has some walls to it, it is just acres and acres where the turtles decide where they're going. They're certainly encouraged to go certain places, the way that they set up, food and watering holes, and there is a clear walking path for pedestrians, but we were halfway to the watering hole where all the turtles congregate, and we had to stop because there was a tortoise right in the middle of the walking path. And these tortoises are so big
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say
the
it's
walking
not. Yeah,
path is like two people, two Americans side by side without any problem. You can't really walk around this guy. He's just hanging out. And I'll put up some great video. I probably watched them for about 45 minutes. There was this one tortoise that kept yawning. It was kind of funny to
that
watch.
is
So
funny.
after the first time when he did it again, I'm like, oh, video. So, but again, this is kind of how you're not in Disney, you're not in America. When you're done in the tortoise farm, there's no gift shop. Like, you're done. Goodbye. Thanks for coming.
Right.
See
Call
you
it a
later.
day. Yeah, exactly.
Call it a day.
Right.
We got back on our motor coaches. We went over to the interpretation center, which is really a mini kind of museum that gives you more facts you can read and history on the island and the tortoises. And then we did have some time to go shopping in town. There were probably 3 streets of stores. It'll be shocking for you to know that I now own a T-shirt with a tortoise on it. Of course, you could.
Yeah, not
They're like, ah, American tourist trap right by the boats back to
not
your
all
boat.
surprised by that. That does not surprise me. No.
Um, but again, I probably spent 15 minutes before getting on my boat hanging out by the waterline watching the sea lions.
Yeah. Just
They're
the
just such
serenity, right? I mean, it's just got to be awesome.
they're such beautiful animals. Sometimes they're a little loud, but sunning themselves on the rock and then they dive in and I always thought they were all different colors. I mean, not all, like they're not green and purple, but
Correct. Yeah. Nobody
you know,
thought that. Don't worry.
but I learned that it's because that's how long they've been in or out of the water.
Got
So
it.
their skin tone changes based on how wet or dry they are.
Interesting. That's
So
cool.
pretty neat.
Yeah.
Again, back to the ship for dinner and a quiet night because again, especially because of the time of year we were there, we got out early each morning. Breakfast was usually by 7. We were on boats by 8 so that we could get out and do something in the morning before it got too hot.
Yeah. No, that's logical.
Um,
So
so that
what was the next day then?
brings us to day 6 where we visited Espanola Island. And here it's considered the oldest of the Galapagos Islands. It's estimated to be over 4 million years old.
Jeez.
Um, there seems to be a lot of birds on this island, and we were able to take a tour. Again, the naturalists led us on a tour of Gardner Bay, where we saw some wildlife that we had seen before. Of course, everywhere has sea lions. We did see sea turtles, which we didn't often see. And again, just even looking at the differences in the colors of the water as we made our way around, head back to the ship for lunch, pop back onto our Zodiacs, and head out to Suarez Point. And there we took a guided walk through an island residence area that had marine iguanas, sea lions, the boobies, the lizards of the area, and the albatross. So
Very
lots
cool.
of opportunities. And I won't say that, I mean, you certainly don't go up and pet these things, any of them,
Right.
but you can get way closer to wildlife than I would have expected since we are truly still in the wild.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a zoo.
It is not a zoo, but they're really okay with people getting pretty close to them. I think you know, they say to us, because of the way that the Galapagos is very carefully controlled, there aren't poachers and things. And so they don't have that same fear of humans,
Sure.
you typically only see it with mothers and babies.
Well, that makes sense. That's just
Like,
instinctual. Sure.
correct. So,
Very cool. All right.
um,
What happened next?
day 7 was really unique. We were on the island of Florina, and we went for a post office visit.
No,
I'm,
that doesn't sound so exotic. I'm not gonna lie.
you know, uh, uh, it is known as the Barrel Post Office.
Okay.
And essentially, it looks
Like a barrel?
like a barrel in a mini junkyard.
Okay.
And inside, you will find postcards.
All right.
And you're supposed to drop your postcards without stamps, look through the barrel, take any postcards for an area near where you live, and deliver them to people. So
Interesting.
it is not U.S. mail, Galapagos mail. It is U.S. humans mostly.
Sure.
Um, you are really encouraged to hand deliver these. So, I would take anybody who lives in Parsippany, New Jersey, or Denville or Rockaway, New
Right.
Jersey.
Somebody local. Sure.
I was reading online through just a general Galapagos forum about some people that were very upset because people in their state brought them back and then put a stamp on it and mailed it, and they were counting on meeting the people that carried their postcard back.
Listen, let's not get carried away, right? I mean,
I'm like, yeah, even if I tried to deliver it, welcome to my luck. I'd knock on the door 6 times and nobody would be home.
correct.
So I
Yeah.
would have driven all that way for nothing.
Yeah.
But
It's a cute little kitsch thing though. I mean, it's something
it's very
totally
kitschy.
unique. Yeah.
Reports are some postcards make it back in a month, some postcards make it back in 2.5 years.
Sure. Yeah, I can
So
see
you
that.
just don't know.
Very cool.
Again, I will say the people in all of these areas are laid back. They're happy to be with Americans. They want to kind of engage with you. So we did have, before we headed off back to the ship for lunch, we did play a soccer game with our crew versus our passengers
Nice.
for a little bit of fun out there on the beach in the grassy area by the beach. And then back onto the Zodiacs. Do you get a theme here?
Yeah, this show
Zodiac,
could be
off the
back on the
Zodiac.
Zodiac, is what it could be. Yes.
So again, if you're not up for that level of movement, it is a lot to keep getting off and on.
Sure.
And
Especially
again,
in day 7, right? I mean, you're still got a couple days left.
we're on day 7.
Yeah.
So after lunch, the naturalists again took us to Devil's Crown, is what the area is known as. And it's because of some of the rock formations. It's a big snorkeling site. We were also able to see on the beach area there pink flamingos. So again, really just so not the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
So not Castaway. You're in a different area.
That's very cool.
So many fish swimming by. I will say, there were some little sharks.
Nice.
I was not a fan.
Well, I mean, good to look at. I don't know that I want to swim with them, but
That was really the first night that when we were on the boat later that night, we had dinner one night up on the top deck. They can do seating instead of on the bottom deck in the dining room. And somebody's like, look over here. And we looked on the side of the ship that has lights on it. There had to be 100 baby sharks swimming around our ship.
do. I love it.
And I was like, never going back in that water. They've got to be somewhere during the day, too.
Yeah, it's their home. You're just renting space, baby. That's how it works.
I'm in their land, so you can have it. I'll stay on the ship.
That's funny.
Thank you very much.
That's funny.
I did get off the ship the next day, but not to go to the beach. We took our Zodiac over to land, where we hopped on a bus and we went to the Charles Darwin Research Station. Very famous area where obviously Darwin made lots of discoveries. Pretty huge area. I will say I don't think we had as much time there as we could have spent. It was a pretty quick tour because there was a lot for us to do that day. We went from there over to a coffee farm, and I am not a coffee drinker, but everybody raved about the best coffee in the world. So we actually toured the farm and how they grow the coffee and harvest the coffee. And then they conveniently had coffee for us to
Yeah.
drink free of charge
Nice.
and to purchase some to go home if you wanted.
Well, I hope you brought some home to at least your friends and family that will drink it.
I did.
You know, the best coffee in the world. If I was somewhere where they had the best Diet Coke in the world, I would absolutely buy that for you, Sandy. So don't worry.
Listen, it was only my second opportunity to go shopping.
That's
Didn't
true.
matter what I
That's
bought. I
true. It
had to
wouldn't have
buy
mattered.
something.
Yeah, that's good.
Um, from there, we went to a tortoise reserve. So turtles versus tortoises, big
Sure.
difference.
Yeah.
And this one, if you know me, and if you don't, you can ask anybody that's ever toured with me or any of my adventure guides. I am known as the woman who wears flip flops all the time. I have hiked Machu Picchu in my flip flops. I have worn flip flops all over Europe. I live in my flip flops. And so when we got to the tortoise reserve and they had told us up front we were going to have to put on boots, that they had boots for everybody, I was like, are you kidding me? I could do this in my flip flops.
Yeah.
Thank gosh I didn't do that in my flip flops because we went out hiking on this tortoise reserve and they had all built these little mounds, and the boots prevented you from twisting your ankle and ending up on the ground. But again, tortoises bigger than 5 and 6 year old children. They are just
Just massive.
monstrous.
Yeah.
The good news is they move even slower than I do. So no worries. They were happy to pose for pictures. Um, some of them were out in the open field. Some of them we really hiked into the woods to see. And it was like some of them camouflaged themselves really well. Super interesting to go see.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Headed back to the boat again, back onto our Zodiacs, head over to the ship for lunch. So again, you're never out for more than 2 to 3 hours. Um, I did opt not to go off the boat that afternoon for our last beach day and hike. It was a difficult hike, and I am told by many that went, it was a very difficult hike. So I'm glad I made that choice. We did our farewell dinner, and of course, because it was Adventures by Disney, we ended with our slides for the week. We got a great slideshow, and hard to believe you fit that all in a week when you look at it. I mean, it was like 14 trips off and on the Zodiacs. Come
It's,
on, there
I
was a
mean,
lot to do there.
very intense. Very
Um,
intense.
and then the tough thing about this trip, similar to the Amazon, I'm never a fan of trips ending. But when you end with this much transportation, so we had to get off the ship onto our Zodiacs. We took our Zodiacs back to a pier. When we got to the pier, we got on a bus. We took the bus to the airport. At the airport, Disney did arrange for everybody to be able to be in the VIP lounge. I will say, if you're a VIP flyer, don't get too excited over the VIP lounge. It is 70% outside, and the flies are just amazing in the Galapagos. Lots of bug spray needed for this trip so that you don't
Sure.
come home absolutely covered. Then we got on our plane and we headed back to the Quito airport. And again, like I mentioned in the Amazon, really unique because this trip ends in the airport in the middle of the day.
Right.
And there's no flights out of there for another 6 to 9 hours. So what I highly recommend to people is exactly what I did. My flight was departing at 12:30 in the morning. I went back to the Wyndham, which again, 3 minutes away. I paid for a room for the night so that I could go upstairs, put my feet up, relax, shower later in the day, and have a home base for the, 8 or 9 hours until I left for the airport. It definitely makes it a less stressful way. I know nobody who wants to sit in an airport and wait 8 hours for their
No,
flight.
no, not unless there's a super comfortable member lounge somewhere that maybe you could relax in, but that doesn't sound like that's where you were faced with.
If you went across the street to the shopping mall, you could pay to be in this little lounge that they had, but there were no airport lounges. American Express claims to have a lounge there. It's about 12 chairs in front of an American Express sign that stops nobody from being there.
Got it. Got it.
Um, and then I began my flight home, and pretty much, unless you live in Houston, Miami, or Atlanta, you're taking at least 2 flights home from Quito because that's really the choices on all the airlines of how to get out of there and back to the US. And so that was a wrap.
Wow. Well, listen, we've gone long on these shows about this adventure because there's just so many things to talk about. Before we say goodbye, what other things have you not mentioned? I know it seems impossible, but that you did want to mention to folks before we say goodbye on this particular adventure series.
I think picking your stateroom on this ship is more key than people would think because
Okay.
it's not a huge ship, but your room is important.
Sure.
Understanding this is not Disney Cruise Line, this is not a river cruise.
Right.
The dining options are pretty limited. And the last thing I would say is think about how active you truly are and you want to be. I did talk to several sets of grandparents that were there with their grandchildren missing that middle generation, and they didn't go out often.
Yeah,
And there
they were
wasn't a
gassed.
lot of extra for the kids to do.
Sure.
So it's definitely the right trip for some people. I will say this is not the right adventure for everybody. So make your choice wisely. And as a friend of mine said to me yesterday, that's why my husband keeps telling me we need to do all of our travel while we're young.
Well, listen, there, like you said, it is very specific to a unique traveler, just like everything else. Everything that we've said on this show since day one is know your traveling party, know who you're going with, know what's important to you, and it sounds like these adventures that you've mentioned over the last couple of weeks are certainly no exception to that rule. If anything, they're probably that rule on steroids.
I was just going to say they are the most that rule applies to.
Well, listen, it's an awesome experience. And, I know these last couple shows, as we said, have gone a little bit longer, but there's so much detail. I can't thank you enough for sharing just the awesome experience that those are. I know that there are definitely folks that have listened to this that have decided this is what they want to do. I know there were folks that you traveled with who were excited to hear your recap on it. I hope you did it justice for them. And just again, thank you for your expertise on it. It sounds like it was a great experience.
My pleasure.
And have a great week.
You too.
That's a wrap this week on Let's Talk Diz. If anyone you know could benefit from this or any show, please share, have them like, and subscribe. And don't forget to reach out to the folks at Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services for any Disney destination planning. Make it a great week, and as always, keep making memories.